You okay, dude? You doing okay? You obviously taking quite a bit of damage. You probably have wither. Alright. What's up, agents? Zer here, welcome back to lab. Today we're going to be taking a look at yet another add-on. This is the Ghost add-on, and before we go any further, I've actually got the actual add-on creator with me here today, Keyyard, and well, unfortunately, he's not able to talk with me today, but he is on Discord, so he's going to be able to hear absolutely everything I say. I'm not going to go into much details to why that is, but at least we've got him here today. So yeah, this is, like I said, this is the Ghost add-on, and this adds in 7 entities, one of them actually being a boss. And quite honestly, I was actually looking at this add-on when it was actually originally first released, but I really wanted to go ahead and look at it, but I was working on other things at the time, so unfortunately never got around to it. But the fact that there's a ton of new stuff added in the most recent update, I'm actually kind of glad I decided to go ahead and wait, because there's, as you can obviously tell, a lot of new stuff to go ahead and take a look at. So let's go ahead and get started. So first off, we've got ourselves the actual Ghost itself, which, as far as this Ghost is concerned, this Ghost was actually, first off, part of the original version of the add-on, so I'm actually quite familiar with this guy. So basically what he is he spawns in that, which actually I should go ahead and mention, every single one of these, with the exception of the boss, which we're going to get to later, and potentially the tombstone, which I'm not 100% sure about, but we'll get to that eventually. Every single one of these will actually spawn naturally at night, just like any other hostile mob. In the case of this Ghost, well, he's not exactly hostile, but he will go ahead and at least try to follow you around. He's 100% harmless, so no attack damage. He can teleport, fly around, clip through walls, and that's pretty much all there is that I can really say. One final thing I did want to mention is that, well, unfortunately, he's not facing us, so I wish I could get a better shot. But he is supposed to be actually be based off of Hero. Okay, so there's a little bit better shot now that now he's moving around. All right, so yeah, he's supposed to be based off of Herobrine, so it makes a lot of sense why he's designed the way he is. So that's actually a pretty cool thing considered. So next up we have ourselves the Spirit, and as you can tell, as far as the Spirit is concerned, he is a zombie, but obviously he's flashing, and he's pretty much exactly the same as the Ghost in that he spawns at night. Like I said, this is pretty much the same with all of them, and he's 100% harmless. However, in his case, he will actively rush you and come after you a lot more than the actual Ghost here itself, so not necessarily too much more terrifying. In fact, I wouldn't say that he's terrifying even in the slightest, but if you're not expecting him, then he might give you at least a little. So next we have ourselves the Flushed Fish, and with the exception of the skin, obviously, he is exactly identical to the Spirit over here, so there's really not much extra that I can go ahead and really give details about, but this is definitely something that you would expect less than the actual Spirit, because if this guy wasn't flashing and he wasn't teleporting around, then you would not be able to tell the difference between this guy and a normal zombie. This guy, on the other hand, it's fairly obvious you would not expect to see him. Alright, so next up we have ourselves the Ghoul, and the first thing that is noticeable to me right off the bat is that he's supposed to be based off of like vampires, if I'm not mistaken. Am I getting this incorrect? Can you confirm this for me? Is he supposed to be a vampire? Well, anyway, so his specialties is that, well, like everyone else, he can actually spawn at night, and unlike everyone else that we've discussed so far, he actually will actively try to attack you, which does mean that you're going to want to go to bed and go to sleep to at least attempt to avoid him at all costs, which is actually kind of cool, all things considered. Then again, that is kind of like normal vanilla mobs. However, he's going to be more dangerous than vanilla mobs. He has 30 attack and does 3 melee damage, excuse me. So not necessarily a whole heck of a lot of damage, but still not something that you want to go ahead and encounter. And according to what I'm reading, he has a special ability called Deadly Claws, which I can clearly see on his right arm. And I'm reading this off of MCPEDL, and he has a movement walk of 0.3, which I am not 100% sure what that means, but my assumption is that okay, so Deadly Claws, he deals wither effects on attacks. Okay, that's actually really good to know. Thank you for providing feedback. So yeah, as far as the speed is concerned, 0.3. Again, I'm not 100% sure what that means, but my basic assumption is that he moves slower than basic mobs. So technically, if I'm correct, then that means that he would be fairly easy to avoid, but at the same time, if you do encounter him, well, it's safe to say that he's gonna ruin your day. Next up, we have ourselves the Reaper. Now, the Reaper is actually really awesome in my opinion. Hopefully, Keyyard doesn't take offense to this. I will argue that this is the best looking mob out of the entire add-on, and yes, we do have a boss to get to later. I will go and say that much, and I did technically say that earlier. But yeah, the reason why I'm saying this is because he reminds me of, like, not only the Grim Reaper, which I want to believe that's why he's named that way, but also he looks a lot like the creepypasta of Entity 303, which is actually pretty interesting, all things considered. And on top of that, as you can obviously tell, he is translucent, just like the ghost over there, and you can clearly see a sickle on his back, which when I actually first saw this, I thought it was actually in his hand, and upon closer inspection is actually on his back, which that is a really awesome detail. I do like that a lot. And so yeah, that's pretty much all there is for the Reaper. And last but not least is the Tombstone right here, and when this spawns, it actually acts more like a block. However, it is technically an entity. So I'm looking at the information right here, and it does not say exactly if it actually spawns at night, but it does at least say it spawns naturally around the world. So I assume that means it does spawn in the daytime as well. But regardless, this is going to do you absolutely no harm. As I said, it acts like a block, so it's not going to move and not going to attack you either. But what's interesting about this Tombstone is actually the boss that I've actually been alluding to for the rest of the video. So I'm actually going to go ahead and give both of us night vision, set both of us into survival, and oh yeah, I just noticed, so I actually am missing 4 hearts because quite honestly we were actually testing the boss because, well, I have no experience with the boss up until this point. So we decided to go ahead and fight, and we were doing at least some amount of testing, and admittedly it was a pretty cool boss by all things considered. We had a couple of hiccups because there's bugs, but at this point in time we actually have things figured out, which is actually really nice. So let's go ahead and get everything ready to go ahead and fight this guy. And so the way you go ahead and spawn this boss is you actually need to find one of these tombstones. Obviously you're gonna find these in the world naturally and not using a spawn egg, obviously. So we're gonna go ahead and fight this guy. And one thing I do definitely want to do is get my health back up really quick. Alright, so let's go ahead and place this guy down. And to summon this boss, as you would probably guess by this piece of paper I'm holding in my hand, just go ahead and click on it, and there we go. We've got ourselves the boss, and it is technically replacing a wither from what I am noticing. And so let's go ahead and at least attempt to start fighting him. And okay, so definitely doing quite a decent amount of damage. I am not going to lie. So yeah, at least actually doesn't replace the wither, just showing error. Okay, so that's actually kind of interesting to know, all things considered. I want to imagine that eventually Mojang will be able to update the game to allow us to display a completely different name with the boss bar, which I don't blame Keyyard for using this particular boss bar. That, like I just said, I want to imagine that's something to do with the game and not the add-on. So this is actually a pretty cool boss, all things considered. I do like this. And okay, I literally just noticed that he was there as I was preparing to continue to fight him. So it's actually not too bad of a boss fight. Alright, so you okay, dude? You doing okay? You're obviously taking quite a bit of damage. You probably have wither. Alright, so that's actually not too bad. And I do not actually have mob drops turned on at the moment. Okay, so it's like a pre-net boss. Okay, so I actually do not have mob drops turned on at the moment. So I actually do not know if he's supposed to drop anything specific, but this is actually pretty cool things. Okay, it drops another star. Okay, that would be awesome. I really wish I actually had mob drops turned on in order to encounter that, but because of other items that I've showcased in the lab, I just never went ahead and had mob drops turned on. It is a little bit of a bummer, but hopefully it makes some sense. So that's actually pretty cool. I do like that boss fight. I do like this add-on quite a bit. This is actually really cool, all things considered. Let's go ahead and... oh, wrong button. Alright, so actually not too bad, all things considered. I do like this add-on. This is definitely something that would be good for, like, maybe potentially Halloween. Admittedly, it's going to be far from Halloween, but this definitely fits in with that. And something I have not mentioned as of yet, which I'm hoping you guys will be able to hear, is that it actually has some custom sound effects. I don't know how well you guys were able to pick it up. Unfortunately, I will do my best in editing to try to get the audio up. I cannot make any promises, but one thing that I definitely want to go ahead and do, and I'm actually going to go ahead and be quiet for a moment just so you guys can hear it, is that it actually has some custom in-game ambiance music, which is actually pretty cool and definitely sets the creepy tone for it. And while I'm quiet, I'm going to make sure to turn up the editing so you guys are able to hear this better. Editing so you guys are able to hear this better. As you can definitely hear, and I can obviously still hear it because I'm the one playing the game, definitely sets a pretty creepy tone, I'm not gonna lie. So other than that, as far as I can tell, that's actually all there is to this add-on. And so if I happen to be missing any key points, I do apologize, Keyyard. So other than that, I think this is actually a good place to go ahead and end off the video. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you did, make sure that like button. One more, to make sure to subscribe for future content. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at AgentCPU0 to stay updated. This has been Zer0's. Thank you guys for watching. And actually, before I quickly end things off, I think I forgot to mention, Keyyard's information will be down in the description, as well as a link to download the add-on for yourself. Thank you, Keyyard, for not only making this add-on, but for also deciding to go ahead and join me for this showcase. Like I said earlier, he was not able to talk, but he was at least able to hear me. A bit unfortunate, but it was what it was. But I still appreciate the fact that he was here to at least help showcase it. But yeah, with that, I'll see you guys later.